Hey friends, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and everything in between. Hope you're all doing awesome today. Be sure to subscribe for more, and let's get right into today's Reddit posts. New Karen neighbor tried to destroy my water line. So I got notice in October that my apartment was raising my rent $200 in a single year come December. I like renting, genuinely. Hey, my water heater is broken. Come home and it's fixed. Never had a problem. But a 20% rise in rent in 1 year? Not doing that. The morning I opened up the rent increase notice, I happened to see a cute manufactured home with a for sale sign on my way to work. I pulled it up on my phone and called the realtor. This was Monday. She indicated the sellers didn't want it shown until Wednesday and we scheduled the showing. I put in an offer the next day and they accepted 10 minutes later. Yay. Signed and closed 10 days later. It was an incredibly easy transaction/process, and that made me very happy. Well, on my move-in day in early November, the retiree neighbor on my left comes up to me while I'm helping the movers move my stuff, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Are you going to do anything about these leaves that keep blowing into my yard from yours?" Eventually it came to a head where I told her, "I understand that you like to keep your lawn tidy. Can you at least try to understand that I have been working 60 and 70-hour weeks while moving and I am doing my very best?" The property management company that runs the park straight up told me that I was in the clear and not in violation of anything. I've had no contact since with her when she realized I am not going to capitulate to her. This most recent Friday when we had frigid temperatures and high winds in the evening, I flush my toilet and I realize it isn't refilling. I test my taps. No water. It's already too dark, so I go to the store to get water for me and the cats. In the morning, once it's light out, I put on my coveralls and head out into the -3 Fahrenheit, -22 Fahrenheit wind chill, and investigate. The water supply comes out of the ground outside of the trailer skirt, then goes through the skirt to the supply. The previous owners had built a well-insulated box around the water supply, but the access hatch was unlocked and cracked open. Sigh. I call my father and tell him I need to borrow his heat gun. He offers to drive it over, but the weather is so bad with blowing snow I told him even in his truck he'd get stuck, so I went trekking over there. I'm fuming the whole way. I could have sworn I latched that door when I was checking my winterizing list. I could have sworn. Eventually, after 15 minutes of using the heat gun, the water started flowing. I get back inside and get under my blankets to get warm after being in the Arctic conditions for nearly 2 hours at that point. I still can't get over it. I know I latched the door. So on a whim, I propped my laptop in the window and set it up to record video and went on with my day. I woke up Sunday morning to temperatures of -7 Fahrenheit, -33 wind chill, and go to fill up the cat's water bowl. No water. What the hell? I put on my coveralls and head out. The access door was cracked open again. I get the heat gun out again and get the water going again. So I check my laptop, and not 2 hours after I started the laptop recording, the neighbor Karen comes waddling across her driveway and walks over to my trailer and leans over by the water and messes with the door before waddling back to her trailer. I get my coat on and walk over there with my laptop. When she answers, "Oh, hi OP, what brings you over today?" All cheery and two-faced. I just open my laptop without saying a word and hit play. She just starts stuttering, trying to come up with some BS. I just interrupt her and tell her I'll be forwarding it to the office and walked away. Monday, the office called me and told me they will be addressing the issue, and it would be incredibly helpful if there was a police report. I gladly called the non-emergency line and scheduled a time for an officer to come out after work. The cops were pulling up just as I was walking home. We came in and I detailed everything and showed them the video. They wanted a copy, so I gave it to them. They asked me to show them the water lines, so we head out around there. They took some photos while we were out there. The whole time we were out there, Karen was looking out her kitchen window. They see she's home as well and offer to trespass her. I head back in and they eventually come knock, telling me they spoke to her and trespassed her, gave me a copy of the police report number and forwarded it to the office. While we were out there, a neighbor couple across the street were out and asked me if everything was okay. I said it was. That I had video proof that Karen had actually opened my water access to freeze my pipes. Their eyes went wide. Their cover over the water line was also removed, broken off. And his water line froze too on Friday, and the repairs were broken again on Saturday. Turns out Karen has an ongoing beef with them because they have a pride flag they refuse to take down. So the police went over there to get their statements too. Karen's husband came home an hour ago, came over shortly after to ask me to retract my complaint against them with the office as a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Your effing wife was intending to destroy my water lines in the middle of a winter storm, which would have cost me thousands of dollars to fix. He pulls out his checkbook. So what's this going to cost me? Well, I bought the place for $40,000. So let's call it an even $45,000 and I'll straight up tell the office I fabricated the whole thing. He said he was serious. I said I was too. He says they're on the verge of being evicted and kicked off the lot, and she has problems. Sounds like the neighbors and I should go in on a bunch of security cameras to ensure that happens then, I said. All because of some leaves and a gay pride flag. Am I the a-hole for reporting night nurse neighbor for a hit and run after she hit my parked car with witnesses, tried to buff out the dent she left, and then parked across the lot while not leaving a note? Neighbor witness took pics and said she stayed there for a bit while freaking out, then proceeded to park on the other side of the parking lot, went upstairs and came back down with a rag and attempted to buff out the scratches and fix the dents, and then went back upstairs and didn't return. Cue to around 12:30 p.m., we walked past significant other's car and gaped in horror as the parking spot the other driver parked in was still empty, except for a few pieces of their car where they had bumped into it. There are pretty large dents and scrapes from the driver's side all the way back to the wheel. Along with those were the buff marks from where the neighbor tried to fix it. Neighbor saw us and told us what happened. We went to the leasing office to see if they knew the owner as she left no note. They said the vehicle wasn't registered in their system. I called the police to file a report at this point. It seemed pretty clear that she wasn't going to contact us, and I've heard horror stories where people try to blame the not-at-fault party for pre-existing damage. Police had their car towed and impounded, spoke with witnesses, and took pieces of her vehicle she left behind. An investigator called and informed us that she was a night nurse and was driving home from an exhausting shift and admitted to panicking, and she claims she went upstairs to write a note but then fell asleep. She was cited for hit and run. Investigator said we did the right thing and he would have done it as well. Yesterday evening, my significant other found a note taped to his car that said, "I'm so sorry I accidentally scratched your car up a little. I feel really bad. My number is such and such. I want to keep insurance out of it. I tried to find your car to leave a note, but it was gone by then." I'm infuriated but conflicted. She blatantly lied in the note about the car being gone when it wasn't moved the whole time. My significant other thinks we should contact her and offer to pick her up from work, since she may be in a situation where she doesn't have the support. I disagree. Since we have the report and had to go through police to even find out her insurance and contact info, I feel justified in letting her insurance pay for the damages and having no other contact with her. We don't know her. Had she left a note, I'd probably feel differently, but I don't get the impression that she's that sorry. Yeah, sounds like she's only admitting fault because she was caught, but even then she's still making up all sorts of lies about how she handled it. Sounds like she's not sorry she did it, she's only sorry she got caught. Neighbor tried to enter my home forcefully, and I stabbed his hand. I live alone in a small house, and I've been having some stalker problems lately, so I'm a bit on edge. But just a few hours ago I woke up to a vigorous rattling of the doorknob on my back door. I was sleeping on the couch with a lot of my homework sprawled on the table and I grabbed a pen. The rattling on the doorknob turned into punches and slams into the door as the man started to scream, "Let me in." I screamed back to stay away, but he wouldn't stop. I tried to tell him to back off, but he just kept yelling to let him in. I could see the neighbors turning on their lights as the commotion got louder, and some started going out to take a look. I was sort of relieved, because now I have witnesses or backup in case anything bad happens. So I unlocked the door, except I kept the deadbolt on. He immediately pushed on the door and started screaming to unlatch it. I don't recognize him, but I don't think he'll try anything with people already watching or hearing. I refused to unlock it and told him that this is my house and I wouldn't let him in. In the middle of it, I tried to close it again, but he managed to grab my arm, and I reacted by stabbing the pen in his palm. It caused some bleeding, and he immediately backed off. It got him to go out into the street, where he was recognized by some of my neighbors. Apparently, he is the son of my next-door neighbor, and he was drunk, confusing my house for his mom's, and tried to get in. When he backed off in pain and retreated to his actual house, which was right beside mine, his mother started screaming at me for stabbing her son. She went back inside while cursing as she tended to her wounded son. But what really bothered me was that the other neighbors started giving me looks and faces. For 2 weeks, I endured their glances, murmurs, stares, and even my own assumptions of what they were saying behind my back. I decided to move out. It was tough doing so because it hadn't even been a year since I moved in, and now I am moving again. And since it is small, it is hard to hide anything from the neighbors who go out of their way to snoop from the windows. Regardless, I managed to pack my essential stuff and had my brother get me out of the house. And even as I was putting my bags into his truck in the dead of night, it seemed like everyone in the neighborhood woke up and just quietly watched me leave. All the lights of their houses turned on and they opened their windows, just staring. My brother got creeped out as well. We started to move faster. It's been 3 days since I left, and I've been staying at my brother's house. I'm planning to go back to my parents in the countryside, but I don't have a date yet of when I'll move out. Entitled neighbor hires landscapers to take down trees in my yard. I live in a dense urban neighborhood of small lots in Texas. My neighbor's driveway is only a few feet away from mine. At the end of the driveway, there's a small side yard straddling the property line, mostly on my side, which leads into our respective fenced backyards. A couple months ago, my neighbor, Tyler, said he wanted to spruce up the side yard and replace the fence between our yards. He asked about trimming back some branches overhanging the fence and removing a larger tree on my side of the side yard because he thought it was ugly. I told him trimming the branches wasn't a problem, but I'd need to think about the tree removal. Although not the prettiest tree, it was mature, 2 around 9-inch trunks and 30 feet high, and provided some afternoon shade for my backyard. I'm not sure of the species, but I think some kind of privet. Update, it was hackberry. Again, not pretty, but functional. The next day I came home from work, and the tree in question was gone, along with 3 other volunteer trees that were in my backyard near the fence. It's a 9-foot privacy fence, so the workers he hired clearly had to go through our gate to do the work on our property. At this point, I was shocked and indignant, but not inclined to invoke tree law. I'm non-confrontational by nature, especially with neighbors that we can't avoid due to the proximity of our driveways. I hoped with a conversation and an apology we could resolve the issue amicably and move on. A few days later, I reached out to Tyler in the front yard. He immediately launched into a frankly unhinged diatribe, saying we haven't lived in this neighborhood long enough to have a say what happens with our yard. My wife, Noelle, texts Tyler's wife, Kat, saying what the heck was that, and made sure to lay out the course of events in text to get Kat to agree to how everything went down in writing. At that point, though, Kat was super apologetic, said Tyler would apologize, and they would make it up to us, etc., etc. However, since then, there's been no apology. Tyler's only gotten more passive-aggressive and bitchy. And here's a before and after. It's honestly pretty surprising how many people seem to actually do this, because the tree law subreddit is full of these types of situations, and I think a lot of people don't really realize the value of a tree when looking at it in a legal sense. As if going onto someone else's property and cutting down a tree is just like, removing a couple weeds, when in reality they're causing thousands of dollars of damage. Anyway, thank you for watching, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So have an awesome day, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.